now give the floor to the Honourable Acting Prime Minister to speak in reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning to you too. Madam Speaker, I rise again, as I'm the final speaker, to essentially summarize, if you like, again to thank His Excellency our President, Ratu Perenelle Tekau, for his most gracious speech. I think, Madam Speaker, this House has, notwithstanding some of the disagreements some of the members on the other side may have had with the content of his speech, but I think they have all acknowledged the fact that His Excellency our President was indeed and is indeed a great statesperson and indeed served us well as our President. Madam Speaker, generally the closing up speech tries to encapsulate what was the motion about, but I think given the fact that a number of comments have been made about the contents of the speech, I'd like to perhaps summarize that and perhaps remove some of the misapprehensions and perhaps lack of comprehension of the speech of His Excellency the President. Madam Speaker, the contributions from this side of the House and also the other side of the House was very interesting, to say the least. And I can summarize the debate in such a manner. There was generally negativity from the other side. There was positivity from this side of the House, including that half of the other side. Madam Speaker, this side of the House focused on the future. The other side of the House dwelled in the past. They tried to rewrite the past, and indeed, perhaps far removed from the reality of the past. Madam Speaker, this side of the House accepted and recognized that there is still work to be done. This side of the House recognized that there were flaws, and that we must all work together for the better. The other side of the House did not recognize any improvements as has been made to date, least of all under this government. They failed to recognize that. They don't want to recognize that. The other side of the House, Madam Speaker, was steeped in what I would call a gloom and doom picture, hypocrisy, and not accepting the facts. They were economical with the truth. This side of the House, Madam Speaker, told the truth. This side of the House, Madam Speaker, does not live in Alice in Wonderland stuff. Madam Speaker, the other side of the House, apart from intellectual honesty, did not have the intellectual rigor. We need to be intellectually rigorous in this House, Madam Speaker, to make any positive contribution. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, from this side of the House, we were intellectually rigorous. Madam Speaker, last but not least of all, I have to say that the other side of the House provided a lot of entertainment. Sometimes it felt like we were in a bit of a circus, that we were before court jesters, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, I can tell you from this side of the House and that side of the House, we also had very wise counsel and wisdom and respect for the essence of what His Excellency our President had said to us, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a number of issues were raised, and I could probably summarize into about 6 or 7 thematic areas. One of them was what I call the topic of democracy and hypocrisy. Madam Speaker, when the other side of the House talks about democracy, many of them actually forget how some of them directly benefited and indeed were part of the 87 two coups, and they were also supportive of the events of 2000. They failed to ignore that. They failed to acknowledge that. They failed to say that some of them were involved in part of the deed of sovereignty, as was highlighted by Honourable Natuva. Madam Speaker, they failed to also acknowledge that some of them and their relatives and their families and spouses benefited from it. But they are only focused on the events of 5 December 2006. They quote the USA as a great democracy, but they fail to mention the flaws within that democracy. The treatment of the indigenous people in USA, the treatment of the people who are downtrodden in USA. It's one of the most unequal societies in the world today. Look at those social rankings of them. Solving America's inequality puzzle. The Fijian constitution, Madam Speaker, this is why it has socioeconomic rights, as many of the members of this House have elucidated. Because we want to be able to address not just civil and political rights, but also socioeconomic rights. And that is very, very critical, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, they also, of course, forget about slavery under the Constitution of the United States of America. Madam Speaker, they also talked about and focused on MOG, the Multinational Observer Group report. They tried to undermine the electoral system. Unfortunately for the Honourable Leader for Opposition, who's not here this morning, she drew a completely false analysis. She said you could not compare the voter turnout of 2014 with the voter turnout of 2006 because in 2006 people who were below the age of 21 did not vote. Madam Speaker, how flawed is that? Voter turnout is based on the percentage of registered voters who actually turn up to vote. So you can have 10 registered voters, 9 of them turn up, you have a 90% turnout. You can have 1 million people and you can have 100,000 people who turn up, you have 10% of the people who voted. That is how flawed the analysis was, Madam Speaker. We heard, I understand, one other speaker talk about how the Prime Minister's vote was only about a third because it was, 200,000 odd because of 900,000 people in Fiji. But 900,000 people in Fiji are not registered to vote. It's only the registered voters who actually vote. You don't have 2-year-olds voting. You don't have 10-year-olds voting. Madam Speaker, I also, to point out the hypocrisy in the democracy argument, is none of them referred to the EU elections report post-2006. When we had a high turnout of invalid votes, 9.4, I stand to be corrected, it was in the 9s. When the EU report also highlighted that there were people, in particular Indo-Fijians, who weren't registered properly. There is anecdotal evidence of the fact that where Indo-Fijian populations resided, polling stations weren't put close to it. These are all the type of anecdotal evidence, and also the EU report had referred to that. But none of them highlighted that. The National Federation Party did not highlight that, Madam Speaker. You thought that they would. This time around, Madam Speaker, you had such a high voter turnout. The percentage of invalid votes, Madam Speaker, was 0.7%.
Under Section 48C, I think the Land Attorney General might be imputing improper motives when he says that, when he talks about intellectual rigor, when he talks about what NFP did not say, Madam Speaker. What I said was, the only thing I said about the elections was the recommendations of MOG. And so it was a very clear expression of what I was trying to say, that the government and the parliament needs to pay attention to the MOG recommendations. So I think what he's implying is that we are deliberately ignoring facts, but the focus of my presentation, Madam Speaker, was on MOG. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, the point of order process is really on the rules and procedures of the House, but not on content. We have other opportunities to address the contents within the parliamentary process, and that can be addressed accordingly. Thank you, Honourable Aiyaz.
Madam Speaker, in fact, I forgot to also highlight that the current electoral system, Madam Speaker, allows for small minority parties to even have representation. Case in point, NFP, 5.4% of the votes they received. They are here today with 3 people. Previously, they received much higher votes. This is the lowest percentage of votes they've ever received. They received much higher votes. They received much higher votes, Madam Speaker, from 1999 till 2006. But they were absent except for Honourable Prem Singh, who came as one person, even though they received more than 20% of the votes. Madam Speaker, the other notion that I'd like to talk about, Madam Speaker, welcome because of this Constitution. Madam Speaker, the other issue that obviously people did refer to was the economy. Madam Speaker, Honourable Prem Singh yesterday said that the economy is being driven by consumption-led growth. Honourable Prem Singh is incorrect to say that the current economic growth is by consumption-led growth. It was. We accept that. It was. The latest figures show since last year it is investment-led growth. Unprecedented percentage of our GDP being driven by private sector investment and state-owned investment and state investment too. Of the 25%, over nearly 2/3 of it, 19% of the 25%, is driven by the private sector growth. So it is investment-led growth. Honorable leader of NFP mentioned about the bond. When I talked about the bond, he flippantly sort of rejected what he said about 6% being not that much different to 6.875%.
6.8 and 9.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, 0.1, 0.2, 0.8% is critical. Splitting hairs is intellectual rigor. Madam Speaker, splitting hairs is intellectual rigor. Madam Speaker, the point is this. The overall point is this. The overall point is this, Madam Speaker, that we need, when we talk about the economy, as His Excellency our President said, we need to talk responsibly. If hypothetically you have an opposition that is for 4 years whacking the economy, running it down for only political interests, if they win office the next time, what do you think would be the state of the economy regarding confidence? Madam Speaker, confidence building in the economy, Madam Speaker, also rests a lot on the type of dialogue that we have in the national space. It is very, very critical, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the point is, as His Excellency our President said, when we talk about the government, national unity, when we talk about our nation, when we talk about our economy, we need to be responsible about it. That's the point I'm trying to make, Madam Speaker. Responsibility lies with everybody in this House. Of course, the economy can do better, can do a lot better. Of course, the economy is far better than what it was than previous times. Yes, we have very good policies in place, Madam Speaker. All multilateral agencies, the investor community is saying the Fijian economy is poised to do well. In the same way, they talked about unemployment. Madam Speaker, it would be very hard to find an economy anywhere in the world that has full employment. Very hard. They talk as if that unemployment is only the curse of this government. What was the track record of the previous governments? We accept the Honourable Minister for Industrial Relations and Labour and Productivity said and accepted that there was unemployment. Of course there's unemployment, and we must remedy it. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to fix. But let's accept the facts. Don't just simply say, oh, there's unemployment. We are trying to find the solution. Work together to find the solution. We had appealed. In the opening address that I gave, Madam Speaker, we appealed to the other side. In fact, a number of ministers has appealed to the other side, Madam Speaker, to let's work together on these matters of national interest. And that's what we are saying again today. Let's work together to fix up all these matters of national importance. The economy is very critical. Getting jobs for our youth is very, very critical. And that's what we are focused on, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue of indigenous rights has been raised a number of times. Madam Speaker, it is, Madam Speaker, an issue that has been flaunted politically. The ILO convention has been cited. 20 countries in the world have ratified the ILO convention. 20 countries only, Madam Speaker. UNDRIP is cited, the declaration. I have a paper here with me, Madam Speaker, that does a comparison of international law indigenous rights in Fiji. We have not seen any ideas emanate from the other side, in particular Honourable Nico Nawaikula, who simply just says ILO Convention on indigenous rights. What does it actually mean? What is our experience by the colonial powers of the treatment of the indigenous people in Fiji? We get told in this House that, oh, our rights are being defrayed because we cannot speak in the Itauke language. Madam Speaker, the Constitution says that the language, the unique language of the indigenous people is recognized. It does not mean that by not speaking in this House that their rights are being defrayed. When they go to court, they don't speak in the Itauke language, they don't speak in Hindi, they don't speak in Gujarati, they don't speak in Tamil. They don't, Madam Speaker. Witnesses who appear and they cannot speak the English language is translated. Lawyers do not speak. Lawyers speak in the English language because that is the lingua franca of this country. We get taught in the English language. We read in the English language. We are assessed on the English language. They fail to, Madam Speaker, they fail to tell you, they fail to tell this Honourable House, they fail to tell the people, the honourable people of this country, that under this Constitution, and it is the only Constitution that makes teaching of the Itauke language compulsory in all primary schools. They forget to mention that. They forget to mention that. They are citing experts who are saying languages, dialects are dying out. Madam Speaker, if you read any book on linguistics today, any contemporary book on linguistics, it will tell you that many languages in many countries, many dialects are slowly fading away. It is not the result or fault of this Constitution, of the Bainimarama government, of the Fiji First government. It is what we call the effects of globalization, of social values we place. There are many people in Fiji who lament the fact that not many people in Fiji speak Fiji Hindi anymore. They say it's a dying language. It depends on the family. It depends on the values you place. It depends on what language you speak in your house, Madam Speaker. But under this government, we have translated climate change documentation in the Itauke language. No other government has done that. The Honourable Minister for Health, Usumate, he talked about all the various institutions that exist to promote Itauke culture, promote Itauke language. They don't acknowledge that, Madam Speaker. They don't acknowledge it at all. They don't acknowledge the fact that now when we have all these foreign dignitaries coming to Fiji, we have different parts, different provinces of Fiji performing the Vaingaravi, performing the traditional ceremonies. We had only one group of people performing before, only probably from one province. Now we have people from Ra, from Ba, from Nandronga, from Vanuatu. We had a fantastic Meke ceremony of close to 100 people, I understand, in the opening of the Nasori market, people from Nakelo. This is all being promoted, Madam Speaker. They fail to acknowledge that. The reality is, Madam Speaker, is the practicality of speaking in a language that many people may not understand. Because we want, as we are speaking here now, we want everybody in Fiji to understand what is happening. If we allow the vernacular language to be spoken in this House, and we say that this Parliament is for everybody, Honourable Minister Bala starts belting it in Tamil. Who is going to translate it? Who is going to translate it? If Honourable Vian Pillai starts speaking in Tamil, if Honourable Singh starts speaking in Punjabi, who is going to understand? He's not saying to say good. Are there any translators in this Honourable Parliament? You see, Madam Speaker, I'm trying to give an example to show the frivolity of the argument, to see how they're twisting and turning these arguments. And that is really a fact, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other thing is that I understand one of the honourable speakers yesterday talked about the GCC. The reality is, Madam Speaker, the GCC did not exist until it was created by the British. It's a fact, Madam Speaker. It's a fact, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it was a fact that also the honourable member spoke about, oh, you have the Sangam, you have the Muslim League, you have Arya Pratinidhi Sabha, and therefore we must have GCC. Madam Speaker, these organizations, they are educational and religious-based organizations. They're not a political representative body. They're not a hereditary body. If you want to do comparisons with Sangam and Arya Pratinidhi Sabha and Arya Samaj and Muslim League, then you compare it to the Methodist Church, the Catholic Church, the New Methodists, the Seventh-day Adventists. That's comparing apples with apples. That's the point of fact that needs to be acknowledged. You see, Madam Speaker, as Honourable Minister for Lands pointed out, that we need to ensure that when we are arguing, when we are presenting our views, it's not simply just to stir people up and give them misinformation. We must talk about facts. We must contextualize it. We must talk about what is good for Fiji. Madam Speaker, the other point before I finish off, a couple of points. A lot of mockery has been made by the initiative that the Fiji First government has put in place, Madam Speaker, to help those people at the lower end of the socio-economic scale. They say, oh, you're giving freebies. Madam Speaker, I want them to go and talk to the people who are the beneficiaries of free medicine. I want them to go and talk to the people who are the beneficiaries of free water who earn less than $30,000 in their household. I want them to talk to the people who receive subsidies for 85 kilowatts usage of electricity and below. I want them to talk to parents whose kids are now in university, who otherwise would not have been able to attend if it was not for TELS, if it was not for the scholarship program, or are able to get to the school because of bus fare subsidies. Madam Speaker, the whole idea of it is to create a level playing field. It's not restricted to any ethnic group, any province, any social strata, any district. And it is done with caution. It is done with standards. It is done with transparency. It is done with sustainability in mind, Madam Speaker. That's the point. And that is why, Madam Speaker, these initiatives are good. We are also working to try and fix up the very regressive taxation system. We need to think of a way around, a very intellectual way around, of how we can fix up the taxation system. The Bainimarama government lifted the income tax threshold from $8,600, to $16,000. In other words, those people who now earn less than $16,000 don't pay any tax. Before they used to pay tax. If they paid tax, Madam Speaker, they paid 15%. Now they pay above 16,000 at 7%. Yet at the same time we have an anomaly, Madam Speaker. It's not political point scoring. We have an anomaly where we have VAT exempt items, but the rich are also benefiting from it. If we want to give assistance, and this is what you see, these people call the freebies, it's targeted. It's targeted. We say you earn below this amount, you get this. You earn less than this, you get it. If you can't pay your university fees, you'll get it. So it's targeted. And that's what we are focused on, Madam Speaker, and I think it is an insult to those people who are receiving it to say that they're getting freebies. It's an insult to say to them, you're getting handouts. As we have said, Madam Speaker, as our Honourable Prime Minister has said, it is a hand up. It is a hand up. We are lifting them, Madam Speaker. The microfinance, the $1,000 grant, the microfinance is to help those people who are, Madam Speaker, who may have that pigsty that they need to get fixed up so they can get another 3 more pigsties. They can get 3, 4 more pigs. Maybe for them $1,000 is not much. But Madam Speaker, that is what it does. The lady who's selling handicraft, she cannot move along because she spends all her money. She cannot buy more raw material. By giving her $1,000, we're helping her. We're giving her the leg up. Madam Speaker, I know they've also mentioned, the other point that I wanted to make, Madam Speaker, very quickly, when we talk about indigenous rights, I want Honourable Nico Navekula, I want to give him this paper, because the African Commission on Human Rights actually dealt with the notion of indigenous rights and how they've dealt with it and how critically important it is. We love to share this information with them. We want to share that information with them so we can educate them about it too, and they can get exposed to more ideas. Similarly with the ILO Convention, Madam Speaker, a lot of comments were made about that. And we love to educate them about that. Madam Speaker, one last point before I summarize, Madam Speaker, is that a couple of members from the other side have stopped and accused the Prime Minister, accused the Prime Minister of not talking to the leaders of SODELPA and NFP. Madam Speaker, I spoke to our Honourable Prime Minister last night, and he said to me, how can we talk to them when they don't even believe in common and equal citizenry? How can we talk to them when they don't even believe that everybody should be called a Fijian? How can we talk to them when they debunk this constitution all the time, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the reality is, Madam Speaker, some of those leaders think we're still in Marlborough House days, you know? Closed rooms, you represent this ethnic group, I represent that ethnic group, let's talk and let's, get the deal done. This party believes in listening to the ordinary people of Fiji. The ordinary people, Madam Speaker, not the elites. The ordinary people of Fiji have voted for these people. They want to will hear our voice. And that is what is happening. Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
In conclusion.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Again, you know, they're misquoting. They want to do closed room stuff. We say, let's do open room stuff. Madam Speaker, look, the future is very bright. We believe the future is bright. We believe, of course, it can be brighter. And we are working towards that. All these ministers, we're all working towards that. Come join our hands. Join our hands. We're going to hold our hips, you too, you can. And we'll work together, Madam Speaker. Not closed room talks. Madam Speaker, Fiji Airways, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know conditions, please. Don't play politics, cheap politics. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Fiji Airways is going to fly to Singapore by March or April next year. We are getting our airport to have a $105 million facelift. We have 4 lanes coming out of our airport. Unemployment, Madam Speaker. Unemployment, Madam Speaker, is being reduced. The economy is growing. Honourable Solothe Randrondo's concerns will also be addressed. That's why being prudent, please. That's why being prudent. We always address your concerns, Honourable Randrondo. Madam Speaker, the projections are very good. The economy is doing well. Of course, there are many areas, as highlighted, Minister for Health, Minister of Agriculture, everybody in this room has highlighted there's room for improvement. Let's work together, Madam Speaker. Let's live and talk and breathe the essence of what His Excellency our President said to us in the opening of this session of Parliament. And I once again thank him for his gracious speech and move that his speech be accepted by this House, Madam Speaker. Thank you.